Welcome back to the Deep Dive. You know we love to go deep on things, and this time we're going to be looking at industrial maintenance. And you've been wanting to get a really clear picture of why it's so important
Yeah,
and the many different approaches that companies use.
right.
So that's exactly what we're going to do today.
That sounds good.
I know it might sound a little technical at first glance,
hmm
but I promise, it's way more interesting than you might think.
You're absolutely right. Industrial maintenance is one of those things that most people don't really think about until something breaks.
Right.
But in industries that are really heavily reliant on machinery, it's so much more than just fixing things.
Right.
It's a whole strategic game with huge implications.
So let's start with the basics.
Okay.
What exactly is industrial maintenance?
Well, at its core, it's all about making sure that equipment and machinery in industrial settings operate smoothly and efficiently. And that involves regular checks, servicing repairs, replacements to kind of prevent failures and downtime.
Makes sense.
But it's not just reacting to problems.
Right.
It's also about proactively anticipating and mitigating risks.
That's interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
So it's almost like having a regular checkup with a doctor.
Exactly.
Catch potential health issues before they become major problems.
Yeah. You wouldn't wait until you're seriously ill to seek medical attention, would you?
No.
No, and the same principle applies to industrial equipment,
Right.
Regular maintenance helps prevent costly breakdowns, extends the lifespan of assets, and ensures a safe working environment.
Okay, so you just mentioned cost.
Yeah.
So can we dive a little deeper there? What are the actual costs we're talking about?
Well, when we talk about costs, it's not just the price of repairs.
Okay.
We're talking about unplanned downtime can disrupt production schedules, impact delivery times, and even damage a company's reputation.
So it's really a much bigger picture than just fixing a broken machine.
It's about preventing those problems in the first place and optimizing performance across the board.
Wow. I'm about prevention.
Mm-hmm.
Are there times when it actually makes sense to let things break before you fix them?
That's a great question. And the answer might surprise you.
Okay.
There's actually a maintenance approach called run to failure, where allowing certain assets to operate until they fail is the most cost-effective strategy.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm genuinely curious about this.
Mm-hmm.
When would a company choose to do that? It seems kind of risky.
It's definitely not suitable for all equipment,
Okay.
but there are situations where it makes sense.
Okay.
Imagine a simple low-cost component that's easy to replace
Mhm.
and whose failure wouldn't have, significant consequences.
Okay.
In these cases, the cost of constantly monitoring and maintaining that component might outweigh the cost of simply replacing it when it fails.
Interesting. So there's like a strategic element to this. It's not just blindly fixing everything that shows signs of wear and tear.
Exactly. It's like deciding whether to repair an old car that keeps breaking down or
Yeah.
just bite the bullet and buy a new one.
I see what you mean.
Sometimes starting fresh is more economical in the long run.
Okay, so that's just one example of the many diverse approaches to industrial maintenance.
Right.
So it sounds like there's a whole spectrum of strategies out there,
There is.
from this planned prevention all the way to like a calculated risk-taking.
Yeah.
So what other strategies are there? What does that spectrum look like?
Well, let's start with the most common one, preventative maintenance.
Okay.
It's like scheduling regular checkups for your car,
Right.
changing the oil, replacing filters to
Yeah.
prevent major issues down the road.
Makes sense.
The idea is to stick to a planned schedule of inspections, servicing, and part replacements based on either time or usage.
So wouldn't that sometimes lead to replacing parts that still have some life left in them?
That's a good point.
It seems potentially wasteful.
Yeah, you've hit on a key limitation of that kind of traditional preventative maintenance.
Okay.
Replacing parts based solely on time or usage
Right.
can be inefficient and can lead to unnecessary costs.
Right.
That's where more advanced approaches like predictive maintenance come into play.
Okay, so tell me more about that. How does predictive maintenance work?
Predictive maintenance leverages technology and data to anticipate potential equipment failures. Instead of relying on those fixed schedules,
Okay.
it uses sensors and monitoring systems to collect real-time data on equipment performance.
See.
Things like vibrations, temperature, pressure.
Okay.
And by analyzing this, data technicians can identify subtle changes that might indicate a developing problem and intervene before a breakdown occurs.
So it's like having a crystal ball for your machinery,
Exactly.
allowing you to see potential problems before they actually happen.
It is.
That's incredible.
It's a game changer.
Wow.
Especially for critical assets where unexpected downtime is just unacceptable, predictive maintenance can significantly reduce costs,
Okay.
improve safety, and extend the life of that equipment.
That makes sense.
Think about a giant turbine in a power plant.
Okay.
The cost of an unplanned failure would be astronomical,
Yeah, that's a good point.
both in terms of repairs and lost production.
Wow. So predictive maintenance is all about leveraging data to stay ahead of the curve
Right.
and avoid those really costly surprises.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like technology is playing a really important role in this whole field.
Absolutely. And it's not just about predicting failures.
Okay.
There's also proactive maintenance,
Okay.
which focuses on understanding the root causes of problems
Mm.
and extending the life of equipment as much as possible.
Okay.
So instead of just reacting to symptoms,
Right.
proactive maintenance aims to identify and address the underlying factors that are contributing to that wear and tear.
So instead of just treating the symptoms, you're going after like a cure.
That's a great way to put it.
That's interesting.
For instance, if a machine isn't getting proper lubrication,
Okay.
a proactive approach would involve investigating why the lubrication system isn't functioning optimally.
Right.
Instead of simply adding more oil,
Okay.
maybe there's a blockage, a faulty pump, or even an issue with the type of oil being used.
Makes sense.
By addressing that root cause, you can prevent further damage and extend the life of the machine.
Yeah, that's a good example. It's like going to the doctor for like a persistent headache and you discover you need glasses.
Yeah,
Instead of just taking painkillers all the time,
exactly.
you're solving the underlying problem,
Right.
not just masking the symptom.
And that attention to detail and understanding that bigger picture is what sets proactive maintenance apart.
Okay.
It's going beyond those simple fixes
Right.
and adopting a more holistic approach to that equipment care.
I'm thinking about all the everyday objects we rely on. Our cars, our phones, appliances.
Yeah.
What kind of maintenance thinking goes into those?
That's an excellent point because while the scale and complexity might differ,
Right.
the fundamental principles of industrial maintenance apply to many aspects of our lives. Even the way we use and care for our personal belongings can be seen through that maintenance lens.
That's fascinating.
Mm,
I'm already starting to look at my phone differently,
yeah,
wondering what kind of invisible maintenance is happening behind the scenes
right.
to keep it all functioning.
And that brings us to another interesting type of maintenance,
Okay.
detective maintenance.
Detective maintenance.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that name. Tell me more.
So this involves testing and inspecting equipment even when there are no obvious signs of trouble.
Okay.
It's like those regular health screenings or fire drills.
Right.
We do them not because we expect something to be wrong,
Right.
but to ensure that everything is functioning as it should be
Okay.
and to catch potential issues early on.
So it's like testing your smoke detectors regularly,
Exactly.
even though you haven't smelled any smoke.
Yeah, it's about being proactive and prepared.
I see.
And detective maintenance is particularly important for safety-critical equipment and systems
Right.
where a failure could have severe consequences.
So things like fire extinguishers,
Exactly.
emergency lighting, backup generators,
Right.
these things need to be working all the time.
All the time, even if they rarely get used.
Wow. Okay, so we've covered preventative,
Mm-hmm.
predictive,
Yep.
proactive,
Yeah,
and now detective maintenance.
we have.
It's like a whole toolbox of approaches.
It is.
So how does a company decide which one to use? Or do they use like a combination?
It's rarely a case of choosing just one approach.
Oh.
Most companies will use a mix of strategies
That makes sense.
tailored to the specific needs of their equipment and their operations.
Right.
And for those looking to take it to the next level,
Mm-hmm.
there's something called reliability-centered maintenance, or RCM.
RCM. That sounds intense.
It is. RCM is a comprehensive framework for developing a maintenance strategy that maximizes equipment reliability,
Yeah.
while also optimizing resources.
Okay.
It involves analyzing asset criticality, identifying potential failure modes, assessing the consequences of those failures,
Right.
and then selecting the most effective maintenance tasks to mitigate those risks and ensure optimal performance.
So a very strategic and data-driven approach.
Exactly. It goes beyond simple checklists and schedules. It takes a deep dive into the why and the how of equipment failure
Right.
and uses that knowledge to develop a targeted and efficient maintenance program.
Wow. This is really fascinating.
It is.
I'm starting to understand why industrial maintenance is such a crucial part of our modern world.
Yeah,
It's so much more than just fixing things.
it is.
It's about optimizing performance,
Mm-hmm.
mitigating risks, and ensuring safety across a wide range of industries.
You got it. And, we've only just scratched the surface
Sure,
here.
leave it.
There's so much more to explore about the real-world applications of these approaches.
Right.
The role of technology and the emerging trends that are shaping the future of industrial maintenance.
Right.
But for now, let's just take a moment to reflect on what we've learned so far
Okay.
and consider how these concepts might apply to our own lives.
That's a good idea. I'm already thinking about all the ways that industrial maintenance impacts our daily routines
Right.
and the products and services that we all rely on.
Everywhere.
I'm sure our listeners are too. And
Yeah.
we're going to delve deeper into those connections in the next part of our deep dive.
Looking forward to it.
So be sure to stick around.
Yeah.
We'll be right back after the break.
Welcome back after the break. It's amazing to think about how all the maintenance approaches we've discussed apply to the things we use every day.
I was just thinking about that, before we started recording.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to take for granted, all the behind-the-scenes efforts that keep our everyday devices running.
It's true.
Yeah.
Let's take our cars, for example.
Okay. Did you know your owner's manual actually outlines a whole schedule of preventative maintenance tasks?
It does. I never read those things.
Yeah. It's all carefully designed to avoid bigger problems later on.
Right.
Those regular oil changes, your filter replacements, your tire rotations.
Yeah.
That's it.
And what about all those, dashboard warning lights?
Yeah. You're exactly right.
Oh, yeah.
It's using sensors to try and catch a problem before it becomes a major breakdown.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. And with some of the newer, more sophisticated vehicles, we're seeing even prescriptive maintenance features.
Really?
Like your car could actually tell you what needs to be done.
Wow.
And even schedule a service appointment for you.
That's pretty amazing.
It's incredible how technology is really changing the way we maintain our vehicles.
So cars seem like a pretty clear example of using a blend of these different approaches.
Yeah.
But what about something like a smartphone?
Does the same kind of industrial maintenance thinking apply there?
Well, it's a different context for sure.
Right.
But the principles are surprisingly similar.
Okay.
Phone manufacturers, they put a lot of effort into design and testing
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that their devices are durable and reliable.
Okay.
And that's a form of preventative maintenance.
Even if it's happening before you buy the phone.
Right.
That's interesting.
And think about all the software updates that we're constantly getting.
Yeah, those are annoying.
Those are like mini maintenance checks.
Oh.
They're patching vulnerabilities and improving performance.
So they are a form of maintenance.
Yeah, and even the way we use our phones
Right.
can be seen through a maintenance lens.
Okay. I'll try.
If you're always running demanding apps and draining your battery, you're basically accelerating wear and tear on the device.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So being mindful of our phone usage
Right.
and keeping up with those updates
Mm-hmm.
is like preventative maintenance
Yeah. It's a good way to think about it.
for our devices.
It is.
I like that.
There's another analogy I often use when I'm explaining this.
Okay.
Industrial maintenance is like healthcare for machines.
Okay, so preventative maintenance is like going for your regular checkups.
Exactly.
And predictive maintenance is more like getting blood work done.
Yeah, to catch potential problems early on.
Exactly.
Just like with our own health, early detection and prevention are key
Makes sense.
to a longer lifespan and lower costs.
This deep dive has been a real eye-opener for me.
Good.
I'm realizing just how crucial industrial maintenance is, and not just for factories.
Yeah,
It seems like it impacts pretty much everything we use and depend on.
it really does. It's kind of a hidden world.
Yeah, it is.
But its impact on our lives is immense.
What do you think is the most important takeaway for our listeners?
Hmm.
What's that one key message you want to leave them with?
That's a great question. I think the most important thing is understanding that industrial maintenance is both complex and absolutely essential.
Right. It's not simply about fixing things that break.
Hmm.
It's about ensuring optimal performance,
Right.
maximizing safety, and extending the lifespan of critical assets.
Right. And those principles are the same, whether we're talking about a massive piece of industrial machinery or a household appliance.
Exactly.
The more we understand those principles, the better equipped we are to make smart decisions about the things we rely on every single day.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
I think this conversation has been a great foundation for understanding those principles, these maintenance approaches in action. We've been exploring this world of industrial maintenance.
And now I'm really excited to kind of see how it all plays out in different industries.
Yeah, me too. I think looking at some specific examples will really solidify everything we've talked about so far.
Right, so let's start with something we can all relate to.
Okay.
The food industry.
Okay.
We all rely on, a constant supply of safe, delicious food.
Right.
What role does industrial maintenance play in making sure that, those grocery store shelves stay stocked?
It's a crucial role, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the incredible amount of machinery involved in bringing food to our tables,
Right.
from harvesting and processing to packaging and distributing. There's this
Right.
whole chain of events that has to run smoothly.
Right.
Any disruption, any breakdown in that chain can lead to spoilage contamination, even recalls.
So I imagine that preventative maintenance is absolutely vital in the food industry.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Regular cleaning inspections, part replacements,
Right.
all of these are critical to prevent bacteria growth and ensure that the food we eat is safe.
Right. And we're also seeing a rise in the use of predictive maintenance in the food industry as well.
Interesting.
Sensors can be used to constantly monitor temperature, humidity levels, and other factors that can directly impact food quality and safety.
So it's like having this microscopic eye watching over the entire process, constantly looking for signs of trouble.
Exactly.
That's pretty amazing.
It really is. Now, what if we shift gears a little bit
Okay.
and look at the opposite end of the spectrum? Let's talk about heavy industries like mining or large-scale manufacturing.
Okay.
These industries, they rely on these huge, complex pieces of equipment that often operate in these incredibly harsh environments.
Right.
The stakes are really high when it comes to safety and efficiency.
Yeah, I imagine a broken down excavator in a mine or a major malfunction on a factory assembly line could have a pretty big impact.
Exactly, and that's why these industries invest so heavily in, robust maintenance programs.
Makes sense. They often use a combination of preventative, predictive, and even proactive maintenance strategies to keep those critical assets operating smoothly and safely.
So do you have any specific examples of how those different approaches are applied in those kind of heavy industries?
Sure, let's take the mining industry.
Okay.
They might use sensors to constantly monitor the vibrations and temperature of a giant drill.
Okay.
And if the data suggests that a problem is developing, they can schedule maintenance before a serious breakdown occurs.
Right, so they're really using data to get ahead of any potential issues before they cause a major disruption.
Exactly. And if we look at a manufacturing setting,
Okay.
they might use proactive maintenance techniques to analyze the root causes of any recurring equipment failures.
Okay.
So by figuring out why a certain part keeps breaking, they can actually make design or process changes that prevent those failures from happening again.
So it's not just about fixing the immediate problem. It's about understanding why it happened and making sure it doesn't happen again.
Exactly. It's a whole new level of problem solving.
And the amazing thing is that these principles can be applied to any industry,
Right.
from transportation and energy to healthcare and even entertainment. Industrial maintenance plays this vital role in keeping our world running.
Absolutely. This deep dive has been a real journey.
It has.
We've explored the different approaches to industrial maintenance.
Right, from the basics to some pretty advanced strategies.
Oh, yeah.
And we've seen how those approaches play out in different industries.
Right.
I feel like I have a whole new appreciation for the complexity and importance of this field.
I'm glad to hear that industrial maintenance is often overlooked, but it really is the backbone of our modern society.
Couldn't agree more. I'm so grateful for your insights and your expertise on this topic.
You're welcome.
Any final thoughts for our listeners before we wrap up this episode?
I would just encourage everyone listening to take a moment and think about the role that industrial maintenance plays in their own lives. Look around you, the buildings we live and work in, the vehicles we rely on, the products we use every day. It's all made possible by this complex web of systems and processes that depend on effective maintenance.
That's a great point.
It's a fascinating and truly essential field.
It is.
And I hope our conversation today has shed some light on the often unsung heroes of the maintenance world.
Well said. A huge thank you to our expert for joining us on the deep dives and sharing their passion for industrial maintenance.
My pleasure.
And to all of you listening out there, thank you for diving in with us. We hope you learned something new today, and maybe you've even gained a newfound respect for the people who keep our world running smoothly. Until next time, keep exploring and keep asking questions.